Greetings, gamer guys and gals. Welcome to part number 8 of my Let's Play Fire Emblem 5 Thracia 776. And in today's episode, we are going to finally be opening up door number 1 with Laura and seeing the awful threat that lurks beneath. And with that being said, we're also going to be moving our units all upward and dealing with the onslaught of enemies that we have here, including the supposed boss of this area in this whole chapter, which is Dhalsim. We saw him being talked to by Raedric. He is related to Jubel, whom told us that if we spoke with him and told him what happened about the child hunts, he would be recruited. And that's kind of what we want to do, so let's hope that that works out. A bunch of soldiers who will not actually come into effect in this chapter. I take no pleasure in this. You lot should have stayed in your cells. Now if he hits, she just dies. Luckily for us, Karen is my most dodgy unit in this party right now. We have to kind of hope that this guy doesn't hit Leaf either, because, oh well. Leaf needs to be pretty well healthy in order to deal with the rest of this chapter, because Leaf has to recruit Dhalsim. Now, Lithis can do it too, but Lithis is far more in danger of being slain by the enemies in this chapter than Leaf is, so we kind of don't want to do that if we can avoid it. And they're attacking Karen here because though she has the most avoid, she also has the least defense, and that makes her a target worth wanting to attack by all these guys. And one hit, we can see that one hit flooring right there. Can never go below one hit, can never go above 99. Very nice, very nice. Would be nicer if that she got strength, but I'm not going to be unhappy with her getting a con level up. Matcha got hit by a 15. And Brighton's taking some damage. Yeah, this chapter is kind of a bit wild. In that it's probably one of the most difficult chapters in the game, because unlike the later game chapters, you don't really have the tools necessary to beat this chapter without having a little bit of patience or dealing with a little bit of potential cheese. Very nice that Matcha dodged there. Hopefully Brighton does too. With Brighton so low on health, it's not likely that I'm going to keep him around, but we'll see. Alright, so the first thing we must do is attack and KO this Armor Knight out of our way, because we need to be able to recruit Dhalsim. Perfect. And another level up for Fergus. Decent. Not fantastic, but decent. Fergus loves himself some good old rapiers. With only 4 might, you wouldn't think they're all that great, but they are effective against armored and cavalry units, so they get triple might. Now that's only 12 might, but because of the 10 critical, and Fergus's massive follow-up critical modifier of 5, he thoroughly enjoys using them. And then we're going to go ahead and talk here with Dhalsim. What? The Empire tried to take me own kin in their damn child hunts? I was only going along with them because they promised my family would be spared. Shh. Damn Raedric and damn the Empire. I've no love left for any of them. I defect. My life is in your hands. Alright, so in all reality, I would prefer being able to attack this magical unit with Dawson this turn. But in order to do that, I would have to do some pretty wild trade chaining. What we are going to do, however, is move... well, we could attack with the steel sword right here. We are going to KO him. That's nice. Not having to deal with both the battle axes anymore is great, especially considering that they both give some massive criticals to the enemies in question. So 10 critical there. And then what we can do is move her here. We're going to take that vulnerary. I would prefer to have been able to attack with Brighton here, but you got to do what you got to do. That's really all you can say about that matter. I think it would be fine if we left Lithus here as bait for one of the ranged enemies. Only one of them can reach him. I think that's pretty well the best that we can do. So we're going to take this Brave Axe here, and then we're also going to be attacking with it. Either one of these guys are going to be dead. And we're going to take out the Javeliner due to the fact that he actually can threaten all of our sword-using units with a little bit more hit, especially because the Javelin itself has more hit than the Hand Axe. It's only 5, but it's still more. And we can pretty well just stick around right here. What we have to do is hope that Leaf is okay. He might get targeted down, and if he does, that's really unfortunate. He could end up dying right now. It's what... Oh, I didn't mean to press that. It's one of the reasons why we have Lithus still here. He's a very nice target for potentially either the bow user or the mage. I would prefer the mage going after him because the mage can't KO him. Well, can't KO him because he has the Hazul scroll. So let's just hope and pray here. That's all we can do. And as you can see, the southern portion of this map is filling up with enemies like you wouldn't believe. It's okay, though, because they are a non-factor. Alright, cool. Karen dodged. I mean, it was very likely that she was going to dodge a hand axe. Let's be real. I'm glad that they're attacking Karen and not Leaf, though. That's nice. And she's getting some nice level ups from that, too. It's hard to give Karen experience points in these early game chapters. Reason being is because Karen is not that strong. I gave her the steel swords to supplement her strength a bit. And she kind of needs it. She absolutely kind of needs it for the early game. Alright, so let's hope for a miss. And we got a miss. Now we just have to worry about these two mages. After that, we are literally golden. Alright. Alright, so now with that being said, none of my units can die to any one of the mages. Okay, Leaf wasn't doubling there, which is good. I didn't necessarily want him to waste a light brand use. So how you want to play this chapter, if you're playing it my way, is you do want to make that wall, but then after you recruit Dawson, see, you would want Dawson to attack somebody up higher than he did. It was still, as you saw, not that difficult to deal with as long as we got a couple of decent dodges. Which is not unreasonable either, because, as you saw, most of the hit rates in this chapter are not that great. But in reality, this is a really difficult chapter. It's just really difficult. You have to make sure that on the turn you recruit Dawson, that you have the stairways blocked and means for all of your units to escape. Because if you don't, you will just fail. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and start escaping. Now, all of my units are going to have escape quotes, and they're going to have escape quotes in every escape chapter. I am not going to bother reading off all their escape quotes in every chapter. In fact, this is the only one and only time I'm going to be reading off escape quotes. That might seem kind of silly because there are some chapters that do have like unique escape quotes. Most of the time they're not. And most of the time it's only like main characters like Leaf who will say something, or so on and so forth. Different. But usually, like for instance, whatever Laura says here, she's going to literally say in every single escape chapter from this point forward. It's just not useful. So we're just going to go ahead and say them now, but we're going to move on from that.
Sorry to duck out like this. Watch your back, okay?
Another clean getaway. My regards, gentlemen.
Looks like I made it out of here, somehow. Alright, I'll go ahead. Ladies first. I owe you one. I'll be just up ahead.
Ah, how times have changed. I should be the last man out, not any of y'all. Diana, you Jubal, I'll make it back home someday. Wait for me. Damn shameful of me going ahead of everybody like this. And we escape with Leaf, and that's the chapter.
Veld, how go your operations here?
Smoothly, Archbishop Manfroy. Some of the citizens mount a meager resistance, but their children are harvested all the same.
Splendid. Then Tara is the only city not under our influence. If they remain disagreeable, make an example of them. Burn the city and its people. Show Munster that the Empire does not tolerate resistance.
It would be done, Your Eminence, but the generals of House Frege seem to have lost their nerve. They've surrounded the city, but have yet to act.
Princess Ishtar, your father appears to be openly defying the direct orders of the crown. Surely you have an explanation for this lack of resolve.
My father has been placed in a difficult position. Many of our own, as well as the clergy, are vehemently opposed to the practice of child hunts. My own brother is among the dissidents, and I stand with him. Archbishop Manfroy, on behalf of my family, I must ask that you stop this savagery. Abducting children too young to lift a sword? Separating them from their families? It's simply unconscionable. But you don't stop there, do you? No. You take those innocent souls and sacrifice them to your dark god. Have you no shame?
Ishtar, my beloved, there's been a terrible misunderstanding. Never would I condone the slaughter of children. Do you truly believe me capable of such a thing? I merely want them to be trained and educated, sculpted into adults worthy to inhabit the Empire. The ones who survive our rigorous training will become a new kind of ruling class, one that will govern over all others of common birth. Consider it, these children of peasants are given a chance to earn nobility, even happiness, for themselves.
At what cost? They compete against each other, learn to hate each other, struggle to survive without their families. You dare call that happiness?
Ah, my dear, you'll understand my wisdom, your betrothed wisdom one day, I'm sure. Say, there's a beautiful bed of flowers just out back. Let's take in the view together, Ishtar.
Lord Julius.
And that's chapter 4. One of the hardest chapters in this entire game. No joke, no fooling. Chapter 4X, Hero on the Wind.
Sir Zed, do you think the kids are safe?
Think of it the way Raedric would. Would you send a convoy all the way to Valhalla with only 3 or 4 children? Or would you wait until you have plenty to show for yourself? There's still time, Asbel.
Then we can send them all back home. Their parents must be so worried.
Focus, Asbel. There's too many guards about to celebrate just yet.
Yes, sir.
Listen closely. After you've rescued the children, I want you to rejoin Brighton and seek out Prince Leaf of House Leonster.
Come again? Prince Leaf?
Indeed. He fell prey to some trap of Raedric's and was imprisoned in this very castle. Asbel, what's wrong? You're white as a sheet.
Lord Leaf was a dear friend of mine, you see. We got separated in Tara years ago, and I've been looking for him ever since. For 3 whole years, I've been searching him.
Then look alive. Today is the day you've been waiting for. Find the prince and escape Munster with him. I've ordered all magi outside the castle to flee Munster as well. We'll be sitting ducks if we stay here much longer.
Are you coming with us?
I considered it, but I can't. There's many villagers and townsfolk left in Munster, and they need my aid just as much.
You spent this whole time teaching me, and I can't even help you in return? Some apprentice I turned out to be.
No, this is my choice, Asbel. It's no fault of yours. Besides, all I really taught you is that Graf Caliber spell. Do me proud and use it to protect Prince Leaf.
Sir said, will we ever see each other again?
If Prince Leaf is the hero we've been waiting for, then the long night is finally over and Thracia will breathe free again. We will see each other again, Asbel, right here in Munster.
Munster? Right, Munster it is. Don't you forget it, Sir said. Come on, knock off the waterworks. But... Don't make them soldiers mad at us again. They'll just tell us to quit your belly aching like last time. I don't care if they get mad. If I get caught crying and they get angry, maybe they'll just send me home. I just want to go home.
Alrighty, so this is Chapter 4X. This is also quite the difficult chapter, honestly. It's not as imposing or as difficult as the previous by a landslide, but we actually have Thracia fog in this chapter, and because of that, we cannot really see exactly where we're going, except our good friend Dawson has a torch, so there's multiple reasons why recruiting him is very useful, and the torch is one of those reasons. It sounds kind of funny to say that, but you really do need a torch in this chapter. I mean, if you know what's coming, you can make do without it, but I prefer having vision. Now, let's go ahead and talk about Dawson for a minute. He's an armored axe, and one of only 2 armored units that you get in this game, the other being incredibly difficult to recruit. I am going to try, but I cannot promise that it will happen. Now, out of the 2, Dawson is far and away the weaker, but it kind of makes sense that that's the case because the other you get far and away later in this game. The only problem is that he's not even remotely comparable, even if they are both trained up side by side. Now, the reason why that is will become clear when we see that next unit, but we're talking here about Dawson. Now, he has a follow-up critical modifier of 1, which means he can crit on his second turn, and the Battle Axe does give him 10 crits, so he does have opportunities to, do something with some crits sometime here, there, and everywhere. He is supported with a 10% support by Leaf, which is pretty good. And he also has pretty fair growths, 60% HP, 50% strength, 5% magic, 40% skill, 25% speed and luck, 20% defense, 25% con, and 2% movement. You would almost look at him and be like, well, why is one of his weakest growths defense when he's an armored unit? Well, if you look, it's because his defense base is 11. He does get defense upon promotion, and in all reality, he doesn't need defense growth. Your units, if they grow too much in defense and are too strong in that stat, or magic, for instance, the enemies won't attack them.
if they don't do damage, they'll just outright run past them and go for your weaker units anyway. So you don't necessarily want Dhalsim to have too much defense, but just enough defense. So I actually think that his growth rate of 20% is not that bad at all. In fact, it's perfectly fine. The only thing that I feel kind of is a bit low for him is his magic. And I mean like quite a bit low. I hate this about Fire Emblem. I really and truly hate the fact that every single Armor Knight, save a few, have to have bad resistance. They are armored units. It makes sense that they're slow. I'll grant that. But it doesn't make sense that they're slow and also weak to mages, when they already have things like armor cutters or armor slayers or hammers that utterly invalidate these guys. Like, he could have max defense and a base level Fergus would be able to one-round him with an armor slayer without criticals. Like, it's just wild. He doesn't need to be weak to magic as well. There's a couple of instances in the series where they decided not to fall for that same stupidity. For instance, like Toronio, great unit, fantastic general. He is not weak to mages, and I appreciate that. But aside from that, I personally think Dhalsim's a pretty fair unit. He is in a very interesting class. He doesn't have any Vigor Stars, and I don't think he gains movement upon promotion. I could be wrong on that. But what's interesting about him is he comes with a B rank in Axes. Now, I think he gets A rank upon promotion, just like everybody else in this game does get a whole rank higher upon promotion. However, what makes him even more interesting than that is he gets access to swords, lances, and bows. All of them E rank, which isn't that great, I'll grant that. But the thing is he is the only unit in-game who can use lances indoors. And he's one of only a select few who can use axes indoors. And he can use bows and swords too. So technically he has a lot of viability and utility with the weapons he can use. The reason why it's not really all that great though is because you want C rank in swords. You want D rank, maybe C rank in lances. D rank at least. He's perfectly fine with axes. But you want like B rank in bows, C rank at the very least, and he's not going to get any of these benchmarks without serious amounts of training. Like very, very serious amounts of training. So he's got the niche that he can use those weapons indoors, and he can use the multitude of weapons. He controls the weapon triangle. He has bows when he promotes. He controls this, but the problem is that it's all E rank. So it's really not that fantastic in seriousness. He has no skills, and he doesn't come with any skills upon promotion either, which is also kind of weird, seeing that the other armored unit who is promoted, pre-promoted, he has several skills. And one of them I would have assumed was a class skill, but nope, it's a personal skill. It's very interesting how that they dealt with that in this game. It's almost like Kaga said, well, he's an armored unit, you know, he's strong, defensive, really powerful, so let's not give him anything that will bust him wide open. So, with all that being said, we're just going to go ahead and move right over here and use our torch. And then we are going to move to the right with Fergus, move right underneath him with Karen. Leaf can go right here. Lithus can go there. Brighton can go here. And Matcha can go here. We'll finish our turn doing just that. We kind of want pretty well all of these units to suicide themselves on Brighton and Fergus, which is very possible. Except for, obviously, the mages. The mages are a bit harder to deal with. Hopefully we crit here. And we did not. Alright, so that's unfortunate. And then we have two green units up here doing their own bit of work, dealing with all these soldiers up here. They typically are in no threat of dying. And also, the way that this chapter, the AI is coded in this chapter, units behind doors will not attack units that they can behind other doors unless doors are open. So it's very interesting how that this chapter is coded. Saw on the right side, there's 2 cells. One to the north, one to the south. Those 2 cells have 6 civilians in them. You absolutely need to rescue them. Well, not really rescue them. You need to open their doors and let them escape out the right side. Because if you do, this is important. If you do... Aw, come on, Dawson. Come on. If you do allow them to escape, you'll get items in later chapters from it. Alright, Fergus has taken an unfortunate hit. You kind of want your units to be as healthy as possible for the second turn of this, because it gets a little bit more wild in my opinion. The mages are a threat, but none of them have like significant attack power, so they're not like a world-beating threat. I think the most that they can even have is like 11 attack, which is pretty strong, especially because you don't have really any magically resistant units besides Karen. However, usually even if they gang up on a unit, it's not the most threatening thing in the world. Now, preferably, we would have loved if Fergus didn't get hit there on that turn. So Asbel and Sed are just going ham, taking out these guys with their wind magic. Now, interestingly enough, if you don't get this chapter, you're gonna miss out on a lot more than you would probably be willing to miss out on, and you'll see that soon as to what I'm talking about. The unfortunate thing here is I don't think it's possible for me to KO all 3 of these knights this turn, especially because Brighton didn't crit. Yeah, Brighton's only doing 2 damage here. It's so wild. Now, Fergus here, he is like our best unit for this, but the problem is he took way too many hits. I halfway want to still do it, but he just took way too many hits. Alright, so we are going to be able to beat this mage here. One mage in this group has a vulnerary and a door key. We kind of want to steal both. So what we're going to do is... Yeah, we're going to go ahead and attack with Karen first on this mage, get him out of our sight. Yeah, they're not really a threat to Karen, and with a steel sword, she can one-round all of these mages here, which is pretty good. So it's not like she doesn't have uses in this early game instance. However, before we continue forward, I think this is a perfect opportunity for us to go ahead and bid our farewells. I want to thank you for joining me. If you like my content, please upvote and follow, or like and subscribe depending on your platform. And while you're at it, have a great and glorious day gaming.